listening to the WrestleHavoc Podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. We talk all that goes on in the realm of WWE and AEW every week. And now, here's your host, the one that will give you a reality check on pro wrestling, Flamin' Ricky DeReyes. This is the WrestleHavoc Podcast.
What's up, everybody? It is Flamin' Ricky DeReyes right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, here to review Friday Night SmackDown from October 27th, 2023. Of course, we got a lot of things to talk about right here on the SmackDown Review. Of course, we had the contract signing between Roman Reigns and LA Knight. Of course, Roman Reigns and LA Knight will be battling for the Undisputed Championship this Saturday at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view. And also, we had the main event of this show being LA Knight versus the unofficial or official member, and he looks like at this point official, but Roman is kind of questioning his motives, of the Bloodline, Jimmy Uso. We also had matches like Carlito and Santos Escobar taking on the Street Profits. We also had matches like Shotzi and Chelsea Green. We had a very good, very well done John Cena segment. John Cena never disappoints on the microphone, and of course, it is official. He will be facing Solo Sikoa this Saturday at Crown Jewel, and from what it looks like from this promo that John Cena is cutting, is he teasing retirement? I don't know, man. We're going to have to wait and see, but a lot of interesting developments going on right now in the realm of WWE. We had a very good, it was a short but pretty good banger match between Dragon Lee and Cedric Alexander. And, of course, we had the main event, that being LA Knight and Jimmy Uso. Bianca Belair was also on this show, and it was a pretty generic segment, and from what it looks like, she is still a babyface, which, honestly, that sucks, because as a fan, I really want to see her turn heel, but whatever. What can you do? But nonetheless, before I get on with all this craziness regarding Friday Night SmackDown, please make sure to like and subscribe to the WrestleHavoc Podcast right here on YouTube, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. Also, if you guys had missed it, the AEW Collision review is up on the channel. I talk about Kenny Omega versus MJF for the AEW World Championship. I talk about the Angel versus the Devil, and it was a pretty good match, which saw MJF beat and pin Kenny Omega clean dead center in the ring. There was only 2 commercial breaks during this match, but nonetheless, this match was very good. There are pros and cons as to why this match being on television. Of course, this is a pay-per-view level match, but we got it on free TV. But nonetheless, it was a very good match. If you guys haven't checked out the AEW Collision review, the link will be in the description below. All right, let's talk about Friday Night SmackDown. The show kicks off immediately. Oh, and by the way, this show was on FS1, so it was not on Fox. It was on FS1 because there was something going on in sports. Roman Reigns and the LA Knight contract signing is up for SmackDown. It kicks off the show. Roman Reigns is the first one to come out, and this was an awesome scene. He was the first one to come out, and what happens? Right as soon as Roman Reigns is going to hold up his belt, and of course, all the shit ton of pyro was going to go off, LA Knight's music plays. LA Knight is not playing around. This man, his music played during Roman's entrance while he was on the stage, and LA Knight just walked right past Roman Reigns, and the look on Roman Reigns' face speaks fucking volumes. It was absolutely hilarious to see. So he walks past Roman Reigns. LA Knight is sitting, so that he sits at the table, but usually during contract signings, Roman Reigns always sits at the head of the table because, of course, he is, the head of the table. He is the tribal chief. He is the leader of the Bloodline. He is the undisputed champion, Roman Reigns. But LA Knight loves breaking balls. He loves breaking balls and pissing people off. So you know what LA Knight does? LA Knight does the unthinkable, something that no one else does, and that is sit at Roman Reigns' head of the table. I love that symbolism right there. It was great stuff. Paul Heyman is trying to move the table, but then LA Knight is like, nah. LA Knight ain't got the time. Of course, he needs to take that deal and sign that title away. Yeah. And then Roman gently sits down, and LA Knight says that they're looking at this contract. It reads, Roman needs to hand over the WWE Championship to LA Knight. Yeah. And of course, let's put a little bit of a ring on there. Of course, there you go, says LA Knight. Roman gets the microphone, and he says, I'm talking to you. This is crazy. This must be stupid. You're just going to sign away. Roman is just questioning the motives of LA Knight. You're just going to sign away from this contract. The crowd, of course, is in favor of LA Knight. I mean, bro, WWE right now, and I've said this before, but WWE, when it comes to their baby faces, like, bro, they just have some sort of connection with the audience, unlike they have ever had, like, the past how many few years. It is crazy. They got guys like Cody, Jey Uso, now LA Knight. It's fucking awesome. But nonetheless, the crowd is in favor of LA Knight, and he asks Knight something. Have you ever even had a contract signing? One more question. Have you ever even had a championship match before? I don't think so. That means you got no clue what you're doing right now. But don't you worry, your tribal chief will go easy on you. Oh yeah, we all know the tribal chief will go easy on you. During his whole match, we're going to get Headlock City constantly. Real gentle. All right, sweetheart. Roman then grabs the paper and the pen, and I think what happened was he gave the pen to Paul. Apparently the pen didn't work, but Paul had another pen. Roman signs the contract, and we get a bunch of Roman scare chants. Now, apparently these were not real chants. These were kind of fake chants. I don't know if that is true or not, so I'm not going to assume anything, but I could care less. But we get a bunch of Roman scare chants. Nick Aldis, who is the current SmackDown general manager who was in the ring, he says he wishes them both the best of luck at Crown Jewel. LA Knight gets the microphone and says, as far as he is looking, he is the head of the table, so Roman, acknowledge me. Roman looks at him, and he says, you want to talk about his first WWE Championship match? You're right, ain't that crazy. He hopes this goes gentle, but if you're going to underestimate my friend, you are already beat, because this is my first time. Yeah, it is. After only a single year, I am sitting at the head of the table to take your title. Climb so fast you don't even know what hit you. I'm going to climb so fast you don't even know what hit you. And at Crown Jewel, you will be like, what the hell just happened? He just walked away with my WWE Championship. You don't understand. He needs only one time. While you were busy doing suffer and succotash for all those years, which was such a good line, by the way, I've been telling everybody whose game this is, LA Knight, and there can only be one WWE champion. Yeah, one. Yeah, and it's coming up real soon. Yeah, and that is not an insult. That is just a fact of life, and he cannot stop the gravy train and being the man that is called the megastar when everybody's saying LA Knight. But right after that, Roman Reigns gets so pissed off and so fucking paranoid that he attacks LA Knight. He stomps after LA Knight. He sends LA Knight shoulder first to the ring post, but then Roman brings out a table. But then LA Knight fights back. He stomps after Roman, and this was such an awesome touch. I really liked this part when they were going at it. So basically, while LA Knight was stomping after Roman Reigns in the corner, you basically had the crowd with each stomp going, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's fucking unbelievable. I love that. But then Jimmy Uso comes in, right? And he stomps after LA Knight. And then what happens is Paul Heyman tells Jimmy Uso to get LA Knight. But what happens is Jimmy Uso is way too late because LA Knight got up and he slams Jimmy through the table and the segment ends. Overall thoughts on this segment. I really enjoyed this segment. This was really, really, really good in my opinion. LA Knight is a fucking superstar, and I'm glad WWE is finally taking the time to really appreciate that. Knowing the current regime, they would do something like that, because if it was like Vince McMahon running the whole show, honestly, I don't think we would have probably seen LA Knight in this position that he is in right now. Because think about this. A year ago, this man was fucking Maximum Male Models. This guy was Max Dupree. And I remember the first time they had Max Dupree show up in a backstage segment with Adam Pearce. I was like, are you fucking joking with me right now? This is the stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. But one of the first changes when Triple H first rose to power in the WWE after the whole Vince McMahon shenanigans happened was let's switch Max Dupree back to LA Knight because we all know the promo that this man can cut. We all know the character that this man can be. And that is exactly what we are seeing right now. And he's already in a main event match against Roman Reigns. Now, there is pros and cons as to why this match is happening at Crown Jewel. But at the end of the day, you fans that are questioning this, let's be brutally honest with ourselves. LA Knight is not the guy to beat Roman Reigns. That is tailor-made for Cody Rhodes. They teased that weeks ago on SmackDown. So right after that tease with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes facing off after that tag title match, it was obvious that the WrestleMania 40 main event is going to be Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns. But even though this is kind of, in a way, quote-unquote hot-shotting, which I don't think it is, I think this match is going to do LA Knight a lot of fucking favors. If anything, this match is going to take LA Knight to another level. Because, again, I tell people this all the frickin' time. It's not about losing or winning the match. It's about how well you are booked during the match. And that is exactly what WWE is going to do with LA Knight. You don't think they're going to book LA Knight very well in this match? Bro, the crowd in Saudi Arabia is going to go crazy for this man. Crazy for this man. They're going to create moments in the match where he was this close to beating Roman Reigns. But, of course, Roman Reigns is going to retain the title because he has to drop it all the way at WrestleMania, which at this point, I think we all know Roman Reigns is going to drop the belt to Cody Rhodes. So, everybody chill out. I think this match is going to be phenomenal at Crown Jewel, and it's going to make LA Knight look like $1 million. All right, moving on. We got Carlito and Santos Escobar from the LWO taking on the Street Profits. The Street Profits come out to new music, which I barely even noticed, and honestly, I am not a fan of this new music. We got a side headlock by Dawkins on Escobar, but then we get a shoulder tackle. After that, we get a shoulder tackle by Dawkins, but then we get a dropkick by Escobar. We get a cover and an immediate kick out, but then Carlito makes the tag. He works on Dawkins, but then we get a kick by Dawkins. Carlito knocks him down. Then Lashley distracts him, but then Dawkins goes for repeated right hands on Carlito, but then we get a back elbow by Carlito. And then he hits a drop kick. Ford comes in, but then runs to the outside, but then both Profits are on the outside. Carlito ends up going for a somersault on the outside, which was fucking awesome. Once we're back from commercial break, Ford is in control. After that, Santos tries to fight back. We get an enziguri by Ford, but then he hits repeated right hands. The Profits later on drop Santos face first to the match, but then we get a splash into the corner and an enziguri by Dawkins, but runs into a furious knee strike by Santos Escobar. Carlito makes the tag. He suplexes Ford, but then we get a kick on Dawkins, I should say, not a kick by Dawkins, a kick on Dawkins. And then he kicks him again. He ends up hitting a thrust kick, and then he hits the sit-out powerbomb or a Liger bomb, whatever the hell you want to call it. And then after that, we get a cover by Carlito and a near fall, but then we get a roll-up by Ford countering the backstabber. After that, we get a kick by Carlito, and then he hits a spinning neck breaker on Ford, but then we get a cover and another near fall. Santos is the legal man, but then meanwhile, Rey Mysterio is watching the match backstage, and this was really the real story in the match. Then Logan Paul attacks Rey Mysterio out of nowhere with, of course, his finishing move, One Lucky Shot, which is basically a right hand. After that, Carlito runs into the back to the aid of Rey Mysterio, which leaves Santos Escobar behind, but I believe the commentators on commentary mentioned that Santos told Carlito to go to the back. I believe that was the case. But then we get a running knee by Santos, but then, of course, the Profits fight Santos off. Santos goes to the top, Dawkins is a legal man, and the Profits end up hitting the Revelation, and we get a cover, and the Street Profits get the win. So, of course, this match was kind of just there. Really, the real story was what happened backstage with Rey Mysterio and Logan Paul. Of course, that is building to the match between Logan Paul and Rey Mysterio this Saturday at Crown Jewel, which I predict, and I genuinely believe this, I do believe Logan Paul will be winning the United States Championship. Look, I like Rey Mysterio, and I think he's great, but I'm going to be brutally honest. I think the U.S. title could be a little bit more elevated with a guy like Logan Paul holding it. Look, if he's not going to hold the world title, which I don't think he should at least hold the United States Championship, because at this point, Logan Paul has proven himself that he can really hang in the ring. After that, Roman Reigns is backstage. Paul Heyman brings out a Packers, yes, the Green Bay Packers championship belt, and he says that this is made from the Green Bay Packers. I will give this to LA Knight because it is the closest that the Packers and LA Knight are to being champion. Then Roman smiles. Jimmy Uso comes in, acts all fucking comfortable, and then he lays down on the couch. And Roman tells him what happened. Roman says if we don't control this fool, it is done. And he tells Jimmy he needs to handle him tonight. And Jimmy says, he's not on the injured list, I'll do it. Roman tells Paul to make the match. And Paul asks, oh wait, my tribal chief, is it for Jimmy versus LA Knight? And Roman is like, yeah. That shit was so funny. I dug that. Moving on. We got a backstage interview with Logan Paul. Talks about how he basically snatches the mic away from Kathy Kelly. And he says his fist is as big as Ray's head. And then he leaves. He runs into Kevin Owens and he says, oh, you're wearing a Rey Mysterio shirt, huh? And then walks off. Meanwhile, Kevin Owens sees Austin Theory and Grayson Waller. Both sides argue with Kevin Owens saying, oh, I can punch both of you guys at the same time. And what happens is Kevin Owens gets escorted out of the confrontation because it was getting out of hand. But out of nowhere, when the heels were kind of in a way celebrating and laughing at each other, Kevin Owens immediately comes back and hits them both with a right hand at the same time. So he basically punched them both at the same time. Great stuff. I fucking loved that. Kevin Owens is so entertaining, and I hope he does great things when he is now a singles wrestler right now on the SmackDown brand, since Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens are no longer a tag team, unfortunately. Dragon Lee is backstage. He talks about how he is very happy to be here on SmackDown. And Cedric Alexander comes in and he talks about how he reminds him of a younger version of himself. Of course, he's talking about the Cruiserweight Classic after his match. The crowd was saying, sign Cedric, sign Cedric, sign Cedric. And he would be nothing more, or he would love nothing more to have a match with him tonight. And both sides shake hands. We get a pretty generic match between Shotzi and Chelsea Green. Even though I'm not a fan of, the women's tag team titles, I can't lie. Chelsea Green is very entertaining at what she does. Even though, the position that she is in is not really at the highest position because, of course, she's not like a star. She's not like the caliber of a star like a Bianca Belair or an Asuka or a Charlotte. Chelsea Green is able to really make the best out of what she is given. And that is the best takeaway that I can really give you for Chelsea Green. But let's move on. Let's talk about the match real quick. We get a roll-up by Shotzi. Shotzi wraps her knees around the neck of Chelsea Green, but then Shotzi goes to the top. Chelsea's on the outside, but then she wants a timeout. Great heel stuff. But then Shotzi hits the cannonball, but then Shotzi goes to the middle of the second rope. Chelsea does the same thing and goes for a Russian leg sweep. I believe it was on the second rope. After that, we get a cover and a near fall. We get a drop kick by Chelsea Green, but then after that, Chelsea goes for the short arm lariat. Chelsea gets sent to the apron, but then we get a kick to the side of the head of Chelsea by Shotzi. Both women are on the top, but then Chelsea drops Shotzi down, but then Chelsea ends up hitting a drop kick off the top. We get a cover by Chelsea Green, but then Shotzi ends up going for the crucifix pin and gets the win in the match. So it was a pretty generic match there and there, but it is what it is. After that, we got a John Cena segment. Yes, John Cena. Of course, he's been making almost weekly appearances on WWE TV, mostly on SmackDown. And, of course, he excites the crowd and says that this is what SmackDown looks like from a sold-out Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 1 week. We are 1 week from Crown Jewel, and there's a special energy in the building tonight. And there's a special excitement in the building tonight, especially for him. The energy is a little different, but it is special. But for him, the energy is serious. He's had a lot of serious moments in his career, and he hasn't been this serious since 20 years ago when the WWE wanted to fire him. And he is repeatedly told that story time and time again. Of course, they had it dug in deep, and then he turned it around, and for 20 years, they shared this. Each and every night, he tried to give you his soul. You give the noise whether he likes it or not, and you give him support when he needed support. And most importantly, you have given me your respect. We get a bunch of Cena chants by the crowd and says the reason that Crown Jewel is so serious to him is because for the first time he feels like he is in jeopardy of losing your support and respect. He really appreciates the crowd and he thanks the crowd. And we get a standing ovation for John Cena. He thanks the crowd and he says, we can't ignore the math. And we get a bunch of you still got it chants. Cena asks, after, of course, replying to the audience, chanting you still got it, what if I don't? What if I don't have it? We can't ignore the data. If he doesn't deliver soon, if he loses this next match, I'm losing this. If he wants to hear the noise, he wants to feel the support, keep this ride going, there's only one thing left to do at Crown Jewel, and that thing is win. WWE uses words like must see all the time. You must see the Royal Rumble. You must see WrestleMania. Hell, you must tune in to SmackDown Live from Milwaukee. Crown Jewel is must see. It isn't just must see for him. It is a must win, and he knows their respect is earned and takes guts to promise a victory, but the time is now to dig deep, and the time is now to deliver. But then Paul Heyman comes out, and this is where it gets really interesting. Talks about how he serves as special counsel to the reigning, defending undisputed champion Roman Reigns. And that is not why he's out here. He is here with no hustle, with no loyalty to anything but the truth. He is out here, and he assures him with respect. You suck chants by the crowd, and based on his past actions, he deserves that, but not tonight. With all due respect, may I? And of course, he wants to get into the ring. Paul gets into the ring, and he offers a handshake. But he says, we're sold out tonight in Milwaukee. And of course he says, thank you for the house. Thank you for 21 years of sold out arenas based on the name John Cena. And mutual respect. It started in a boardroom when Vince turned to him when I was running SmackDown. The first round draft pick came from OVW, Ohio Valley Wrestling he's talking about. Who did he pick? John Cena. For 21 years, he didn't let anyone down. He's been a real-life superhero. He has raised his kids to be just like you, John, more like you than me. Then came SummerSlam 2 years ago against Roman Reigns, until Roman proved that he isn't the greatest of all time anymore. And that isn't a bad thing. As long as he takes the microphone and this is coming from him, he is the greatest of all time in communication in WWE. They will boo with him. He has a bond with the people that he can never have because he can talk like no one on this planet. And, of course, what a future he could have had talking. John could have been me until you pissed off the bloodline. And now the order has come from the top. Of course, he's mentioning Roman Reigns. It sent enough for Roman to spear him and give him broken rings, and he's come back. But when Solo hits you with that spike, when he hits you with that spike, then you can't talk anymore, John. The greatest weapon he has taken away from you makes him so dangerous when it's taken away from him. John Cena versus Solo Spike. Solo takes away from you, and the bloodline takes from the WWE Universe. And he comes out here and opens his heart saying, I must win. I must. And the one thing he must win in his career, he cannot win. And John Cena, that is not a prediction. That is a spoiler. But then John Cena attacks, or I should say Solo attacks John Cena from behind, ends up hitting the spinning Solo. Cena gets up, or Solo stands tall, Cena gets up, and then Solo ends up hitting the Samoan Spike, as you guys see right over here, and the segment ends. Overall thoughts on this segment. This was a phenomenal segment from John Cena's promo in the beginning to Paul Heyman's promo. John Cena, I mean, we could repeat ourselves time and time again. He is a master on the microphone, and his lines were very interesting on this show. I mean, is he really teasing retirement? I mean, I feel like these teases are not a coincidence. I think we're setting ourselves up for a John Cena retirement tour. That's just my opinion. I don't want to see it because I feel old, and I really don't want to see it because John Cena is the type of wrestler that I would really, he was really the wrestler that got me into wrestling. But are we setting ourselves up for some sort of John Cena retirement tour? I don't know. Or is he teasing this for the sake of teasing this? We're going to have to wait and see. But what really intrigued me the most was Paul Heyman's promo. I mean, Paul Heyman, of course he gets the credit that he really deserves, and rightfully so. But man, his promos, he can turn something so simple, and he can literally grab what somebody just said, and he can spin it in his own narrative, and that is exactly what Paul Heyman did in this promo. He just talked about two things and kind of spinned it with Solo Sikoa, basically putting over Solo Sikoa, talking about John Cena's connection with the audience and his communication with the audience and the way he is able to speak on the microphone. And Paul is just saying, look, Solo's going to take that away from you once he hits you with that Samoan spike. I loved that shit because it makes a guy like Solo Sikoa way more deadlier than he already is. And I like that, and I appreciate that. So that is great storytelling on Paul Heyman's end. And, of course, John Cena's end as well from his side of the story. But nonetheless, who's going to be winning against Solo Sikoa and John Cena, or between Solo Sikoa and John Cena? I can't see Solo Sikoa losing clean in the ring. I wouldn't be surprised if Cena won, but, I mean, it's Solo Sikoa, and Solo Sikoa is the future. I do see Solo Sikoa getting the win because, again, if you put over Solo Sikoa like that, you establish Solo Sikoa as like this unstoppable force in the bloodline, and nobody can stop this guy. Even though, in a way, he's kind of been losing his matches left and right on TV, a match of this caliber, I think you have to give the win to Solo Sikoa at the end of the day. All right, moving on. We got an LA Knight promo. Of course, he talks about how Paul Heyman talks about the bloodline, but the bloodline needs to worry about who they pissed off. And then Jimmy Uso comes in and he talks about how he wants to tangle with him. But here's how it goes down. Later tonight, he will grab those two toenails and spin him his ass around and show whose game this is when everybody is saying LA Knight. Yeah. After that, we get a banger match. It was a short match, but a great match between Cedric Alexander and Dragon Lee. WWE's doing a very good job on showcasing a guy like Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee is fucking amazing. I've known who Dragon Lee was before he was in the WWE. He's a phenomenal wrestler, man. Just phenomenal. The match starts. We get a waistlock by Dragon Lee, followed by a Hurricane Rana. But Cedric gets up. We get the head scissors by Cedric Alexander, but then Lee gets up. He hits a dropkick, but then they get up on their feet. We get an arm drag by Cedric Alexander, and then we get a chop by Cedric, but then we get an overhand chop by Lee. Both men exchange overhand chops, but then Lee gets sent to the apron, but then we get a knee by Cedric. Runs into a knee by Dragon Lee, but then Cedric drops Lee down back first on the apron. Once we're back from commercial break, both men exchange strikes. Cedric goes for the Michinoku driver, but then we get a cover and a near fall. Dragon Lee goes to the top, but then both men are on the roof, or on the top, I should say. Dragon Lee goes for the double stomp on the chest of Cedric Alexander, but then Cedric counters a powerbomb into a back elbow. We get a lariat countered by Lee, but then, of course, Lee hits the Liger bomb, and then we get a cover and a near fall. We get a shit ton of roll-up reversals after a Michinoku driver attempt, but then we get a knee by Lee, but then Lee drops him down, and then we get a cover, and Dragon Lee gets the win. That was a pretty good match between both men. I love how they're having matches like this on TV. We need more of this. Bianca Belair, she has the segment after making her return. Of course, talks about how she's excited to be back on SmackDown. Now, last week, of course, she came back and she had only one thing on her mind. And she shows the video package of 2 months ago after getting attacked by Damage Control. And she talks about how that's still hard to watch. Getting attacked 2 weeks after losing the title at SummerSlam. It did something to her physically, but mentally. For the first time ever, she was out. And she was sitting at home with nothing but her thought in her head. And when she tried to rehab, she was constantly thinking about how she wanted to make Damage Control pay. This time, she just could not let it go. For the first time in her life, she was consumed with vengeance. Vengeance that got her up out of bed every day. And it was vengeance that had her come up with a plan. And it's official. At Crown Jewel, she will get her rematch against Io Sky for the Women's Championship. And she loves how we're liking it but that's not it. Because next week, she will be facing off against Bayley. Because her vengeance isn't complete. Starting with Bayley, and then that is, of course, reclaiming her WWE Women's Championship. I do not see Bianca Belair getting the win in this match. That's just my opinion. Why would she win the title back after she's held it for that long, in my opinion? I like Bianca Belair, but it's the same promo that we've been seeing, by Bianca Belair constantly. I like Bianca Belair, but in my opinion, I just feel like Bianca, again, and I said this last week, Bianca really needs a real reset, when it comes to her direction. I feel like she really should turn heel. I feel like they need to turn her heel if they really want to repackage her. Now, I understand Bianca Belair is very marketable at what she does, and she is very marketable, and she is a great babyface. But I feel like her babyface has, run, and her babyface character has been getting a little bit stale. So, honestly, I think the best decision is for her to turn heel, but I doubt that is going to happen. But we're going to have to wait and see. It's very interesting, but it was a fine promo. Nothing really interesting in my opinion. And it looks like it's official. We're going to be getting Bianca Belair versus Io Sky for the women's title at Crown Jewel. We then have the main event. We got LA Knight taking on Jimmy Uso. We get a bunch of LA Knight chants by the crowd. Both lock up. We get a shoulder tackle by Jimmy Uso. Both lock up once again. LA Knight fights back. We get a back elbow by Knight, but then, of course, Knight goes for the snap suplex. We get a cover and a near fall. Knight works on the arm of Jimmy Uso, but then Knight continues to work on the arm of Jimmy Uso. We get a headbutt by Jimmy, and then we get a chop by Jimmy. Later on, we get and this spot was actually pretty cool. We get a sunset flip backbreaker by LA Knight, but then LA Knight gets taken down on the apron. We then get a suplex by Jimmy Uso on LA Knight on the apron, and once we're back from commercial break, we get a shoulder tackle by LA Knight. We get a sunset flip roll-up by Knight, and then we get a near fall. Jimmy goes for a right hand, and then we get repeated right hands by Jimmy. Jimmy's in control. We get a hip attack into the corner. Jimmy then runs into a lariat by Knight, but then Knight and Jimmy exchange strikes. Jimmy then sends Knight to the post shoulder first. Knight counters Jimmy with the inverted DDT. We get a series of rights and lefts. We get a Russian leg sweep by Knight, but then we get a DDT by Knight, and then we get a cover and another near fall. Knight is in control, but then Jimmy retreats to the outside, but then LA Knight bumps Jimmy repeatedly onto the announce table. Jimmy then gets sent back into the ring, but then Knight goes to the top. He gets caught into a Samoan drop, and we get a cover and another near fall. After that, Jimmy goes to the top, but then LA Knight comes back. LA Knight gets taken down. We get the Uso splash by Jimmy, but then we get a cover and another near fall. Jimmy goes back to the top, but then LA Knight comes back. Jimmy pushes him off, but then Knight jumps to the top. He hits a superplex, but then after that, he hits the BFT. After that, we get a cover. LA Knight gets the win. But then Roman runs into the ring. LA Knight ends up catching Roman, and what happens is Roman gets hit with the BFT in retaliation for what Roman did the previous week. So that was great stuff, and that was SmackDown. Overall thoughts on this SmackDown show. I thoroughly enjoyed the show for what it was. It was a great show. Of course, we had a lot of build towards Crown Jewel, which is this Saturday. Main evented by Roman Reigns defending his undisputed title against the megastar himself, LA Knight. And I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but LA Knight is not going to win this match. He's just not. There's no way that LA Knight is going to be getting the win. But nonetheless, I enjoyed this match. It was a great match. And I enjoyed the show for what it was, especially, the John Cena segment and the contract signing. Those two segments were really top-notch. And we had a lot of build towards Crown Jewel. So, yeah, that was my SmackDown review from October 27th, 2023. Please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the WrestleHavoc Podcast, in which we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content. And as the friggin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. And as always, it is Flamin' Ricky DeRays, signing out. I'll see you guys later. Peace.